Commission some time ago. Jeff's back here tonight to just simply give a quick update on where we are thus far.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mark, and good afternoon, members of council. I'm Jeff Buckaloo, Town Engineer. And yes, this is an item in our strategic work plan. Very important to us. I'm going to be heading it up. Here's the purpose statement within the plan. It kicks off in July of 22, and it's going to run through July of 23. That's phase one. You recall, as Mark mentioned, there was a resolution from the Greater Island Council. It came forward to the Planning Commission last October and was forwarded on to Town Council in April. It was unanimously approved by Council. Since that time, I have sent that resolution and your approval to the County Administrator and key staff at the county. And I know at that time there were questions, what's next? What is staff going to do? What do we do from this point on? That resolution basically said that the Greater Island Council recommends the town and county councils work together on a long-term agreement for the recycling and landfill needs of the island and the county. Since that time, I have been talking with county staff. We have set up monthly meetings with key personnel, Solid Waste and Recycling Director Cindy Carter, myself, Neil Desai, Public Works Director. We're also going to involve the Greater Island Council. Peter Christian is chairman of the Sustainability Advisory Committee. Peter is wired in, has extensive knowledge on this issue. His committee has done a lot of research. And we're also involving Mike Bennett. He is the District 3 Hilton Head Island representative on the County Solid Waste and Recycling Board. Also of note, just last month, the county approved a solid waste management plan. This is a 20-year plan to guide their efforts. There are 5 major goals listed there. Of course, we have a lot of mutual goals in common. But we're going to work together on the Greater Island Council resolution, getting amendments, et cetera, in place as we move forward over the coming year. I have a list of tasks here that I'm going to be working with those folks to put in place. We're fleshing out dates and fleshing out the plan, of course, but one of the key things on there at the appropriate time, the town manager will consult with town council and we'll have a workshop devoted to solid waste and recycling. And I know that's a lot on there, but those are just to let you know there are tasks that we're going to dive into over the coming year. And with that, if there are any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them. Glenn?
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. It seems to me that there are 2 main issues here. One is trying to find a site for a new disposal, for a new dump, if you will.
Southern Beaufort County
Right.
Center, yes.
We know that the one in Jasper County is reaching capacity. And so is that going to be a thrust of yours?
Yes. I understand the county is going to renegotiate with Hickory Hill Waste Management for that landfill site. I understand they've applied for permits to expand that site to build 20 years of new capacity into that site. But yeah, the more options we have and the closer proximity to Hilton Head, the more marketable and feasible it's going to be to get higher recycling numbers.
And then the other focus is trying to promote and encourage people to recycle waste here. And there are lots of good ideas out there, and I hope that you gather all of those in and come back with a plan. This is a pristine island, and it's amazing that we don't have standards here for disposal of waste. And I'm glad to have you doing it, and I look forward to your report. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
Jeff, from my perspective, listening to a number of people in the community, there's a great deal of cynicism relative to our commitment to recycling. And this seems to emanate from the as-is situation where trucks come in and have on their signage, "We recycle," only to find out they really don't. When they head to the dump, many of them have to pay an extra fee for that recycling to be dumped in a certain location. And that has resulted in the cynicism of what we're doing today. And I think, and I know what you're doing is good. We're heading in the right direction. But I think we have to have an ongoing progress communication program with the community so that they, A, know what the problem is, and then B, know what we're doing to look at solutions. So I would encourage, these presentations are important, but this is a project that's going to extend for a number of months, not a couple of years. And I think community education is going to be important to get support.
Yes, I agree, and we'll keep that in mind.
Afternoon. I know I keep asking this question. I'm not sure if I've gotten the answer now. It may be in the email that I have overlooked, but in the veins of recycling, I know that the county convenience center was requiring a decal for recycling. Is that still the case, or have we?
Yes, that is the case, and right now, I think we got folks here from Public Works, but as a workaround to let people recycle, anyone to recycle that may not have a decal to dump there, they've stationed the decal reader up at the actual dumping bins. So you could go in and drop off your recycling, and I think if you got up there and didn't have a decal, they would wave you through. And I think that's kind of a workaround, given the layout of the site and the infrastructure. I think the improvements can be made, but right now, if someone wanted to come up and recycle and didn't have a decal, they would dump their recyclables, come up to the checkpoint, they would wave them through, say, you're not allowed to dump your trash here, and move on.
Okay. To Councilman Hawkins' point, we want to send off the message that we are in the business of recycling Hilton. So maybe some form of communication to the community at large, I think, is appropriate for that workaround that we have in place at the moment. Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir. Is that good?
Jeff, do you anticipate any changes to our local convenience center as a result of this evolution?
Yeah, I think there could be infrastructure changes out there. I think with the traffic demands, we could better separate traffic. There's a class 2 center down the road at the end of Summit Drive, a lot of truck traffic coming through. I think if we separated traffic there. But as we just said, getting recyclables available to everyone, even without the decal is key. And so I think there's infrastructure improvements we could make to the site to make that more functional and easier for folks to use. Yes, sir.
Councilman Harkins made a statement that there's cynicism in the community because the collectors of recycled materials aren't actually recycling it. I've asked previously to confirm that so that our residents who are paying a recycling fee can make a decision as to whether or not they want to continue supporting that at their expense. It would be my goal that we had 100% recycling on the island, but I think it's misleading, disingenuous, if citizens are paying for something that they're not receiving. So I again request that we confirm that this is happening or not happening so the residents can get an answer. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. And Jeff, you clear on the two things, one with the business licensing and the other with the communication on recycling as
Yes.
a couple action items. We'll follow up on that. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yes, sir.
Next, most recently, I received a few phone calls and a few emails about our beach regulations. So I've asked Josh Gruber, our deputy town manager, to give a brief synopsis of the issue that we encountered a couple of weeks ago, and then also a little bit about our current regs and what we do moving forward. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Orlando. Just wanted to highlight a couple of items as Mr. Orlando had indicated. First and foremost, I want to let you know about an upcoming event. Mark your calendars. The Public Planning Committee on August 4th at 9 a.m. is going to be holding a meeting, and at that time, they're going to be receiving a presentation from PCI Municipal Services. PCI Municipal Services is the firm that we are recommending that we move forward with in terms of our beach parking management and enforcement. We've been working with them over the course of the last month to really develop kind of a very comprehensive plan that looks at each of our individual areas separately and provides solutions to those particular areas. Part of what really drew us to this firm is the fact that they are a boutique firm who's wholly focused on providing high-quality municipal parking and management services to municipal clients only. They also tailor and are flexible to each of their needs to meet their clients' unique circumstances, and obviously, I think most of you would agree that we are not like necessarily other people. And so the fact that they were willing to come in and create a solution that is tailored to our specific needs really got us excited. So mark your calendars for that. That's been in the works for a while. We want to make sure that people are aware and can listen and attend as that goes forward. I also want to highlight very quickly some recaps from the recent holiday weekend. The beach operations team was out in full force from July 1st through July 4th. We had a presence in our parks, on the beaches, and within all of our facilities from 5 a.m. until 10 p.m. each day. Obviously, it was a very busy time, but as of now, there's been no major incidents to report that have come back at any of the town facilities. Additionally, the Palmetto Breeze was busy all 4 days providing shuttle service, and we were able to estimate that at any given time, the overflow lot at USCB was about 3/4 of the way full, and that's a new record for us in terms of the volume of people that are utilizing that as a viable parking option. On July 5th, the day following the July 4th holiday, staff worked with Turtle Trackers, Shore Beach Services, and others to arrange for a beach cleanup. As has historically happened, we have a lot of revelers and people who want to be out on the beach the night of July 4th. This year was no exception, and so there was a significant volume of trash that was left on the beach, and staff was out there with other organizations to make sure that that got cleaned up as quickly as possible. In addition, they also had Pro Disposal place an additional 25 96-gallon trash cans to try and anticipate the additional increase in volume of waste. That's going to be an ongoing issue that as we continue to look at our beach operations services and our master planning for our beach parks, it's something we're going to have to continue to talk about. How do we look at addressing that going forward? And then lastly, want to address a couple of concerns that had come in with regards to beach fishing or fishing on the beach. And so what I wanted to do this evening was basically provide you an overview of what is currently in the town code and how staff goes about applying that language out in the field when situations arise. So currently, the town delineates both areas where fishing is prohibited, and then there are areas where fishing is permitted. Areas where fishing is prohibited are delineated by markers that are placed in the dunes, and they are designated swimming areas. Areas outside of those markers, it is permissible for fishing. However, there are several additional regulations that are in place. One, you're not allowed to use quote-unquote bloody bait. We do have staff that goes up and they will inspect to see what forms of bait are being used. We don't want raw chicken. We don't want other types of meat. But typically what you'll find is fish, shrimp, other things targeting the fish that are out there in the ocean. And in addition to that, there is an express prohibition in our code against shark fishing. Now, what's a little bit difficult about enforcement of that is that, as most of you know with fishing, you may not know what it is that you are going to catch until you have actually landed it on the beach. So the way that we have approached the enforcement of that regulation is that you are presumed to not be shark fishing until you catch a shark. Then you are determined to be shark fishing, and you must cease fishing at that point. That sounds a little bit convoluted, but again, knowing that the language is in place and knowing the practicalities of enforcing it, that is how we have gone about working both with staff and with Shore Beach Services to address those concerns if and when they do come up. In terms of concerns regarding the treatment of animals, that was part of what had come across some of the correspondence that we'd received. We contacted the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. They're the state agency who's in charge of regulating fishing within the state of South Carolina. We asked them to look at both videos and photographs that had been provided to us as part of these issues. And based upon their observations, they did not observe anything that would constitute a violation or mistreatment of the animals. Now, again, that is absolutely potentially subject to change on a case-by-case basis, but at least of what we were previously provided and what we submitted to DNR, that was the result that they came back with. In going forward with this issue, we know that there's likely to be some discussion about best practices. And so as we go forward with talking about improving our beach master plans and overall beach experiences, one of the things that we're going to be doing with staff is asking them to survey other communities to look at what are in fact the best practices of this issue. We know that there are vocal people on both sides, people passionate about their beach experience, people passionate about recreational opportunities and outdoor lifestyles. We understand that. So we want to kind of see, are there people that have gone about addressing this in a reasonable manner? And if so, do we need to align our practices with those standards? With that, Mr. Orlando, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
One here.
So, thank you. And a lot of this discussion for me centered around some of those videos and photos. And I appreciate all the beach cleanup and everyone who's participating in it. Hopefully each one of us and our visitors are also pitching in and respecting our island as they use it. Since the comment was made that DNR didn't see any issues with what clearly we all saw, I'm going to just plead and ask, and perhaps we can create an ongoing campaign of informing our visitors and residents and all who come here to enjoy Hilton Head Island, to remember that we do protect our wildlife here. We do go out of our way to make sure that our turtles have a nesting place and return each year, and that life continues for all of our friends who don't walk on 2 feet and attend council meetings. I'm also going to ask that as we see people do things that aren't nice to our wildlife, that we take a moment and ask them to remember that on Hilton Head, we have a standard that is, that we protect and we preserve and we honor our wildlife and our environment. And it's because of that they're coming here. It's because of what we've preserved and protected in the past that brings people back and makes them want to become residents and continue the cycle that we have here on Hilton Head. If we don't do that, then we chance losing it all. So I'm going to ask everyone here to spread the word. I'm going to ask that in some article that some paper may be writing, that they mention clearly that on Hilton Head, we protect our wildlife, that we honor the environment, and we would ask everyone to make sure that they remember that when they're here. I disagree with the assessment that was made. And I'm asking for everyone's help. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much, Josh. Good job. All right, last but not least, Mr. Sean. Sean's here to give an update, Mayor and Council, to you and to the community, to let us know what really has transpired on the William Hilton Parkway Gateway Corridor project since we've last had our most recent public meeting, which was a few months ago, the joint public meeting between Beaufort County Council and all of you. So, Sean, thank you for your steadfast approach on this project.
Thanks, Mark, Mayor, Town Council. Well, one, I'm excited to be back in front of you. I'm eager to move this project forward, at least outlining the steps that we need to take to get to a decision. We have Senator Tom Davis here as well, and I'm going to go through my presentation and ask him to come up and share comments if he has some on this particular topic for the benefit of council and the folks here in the audience. I'm happy that we have a full crowd, and I hope that our online following is also paying attention, because we're going to be very intentional on the actions that I'm asking you for today and the direction. I want to make sure that through the town manager that we're meeting your expectations and the community's expectations on this project, okay? I'm going to talk just briefly about the most recent meetings we've had related to the project. Not to go back to October, but that's when you approved your recommendations. We received a response from Beaufort County staff early part of the year, and then asked County Council to plan, to approve that as well and send that on to us. And that came about the time the SCDOT had their public meeting on the modified, revised, preferred alternative, I think, or something like that. The good news is that modified preferred alternative included some of the recommendations that council supported. Good thing. Where we had some gaps is on some other recommendations, and that's why we went forward with some more meetings. I'm going to lead some discussion on some key activities for project planning to get from where we are today to where we have information to make a decision, to consider and make a decision on the project. And it includes elements on the request for this end-to-end analysis, the adaptive signalization system, implementation on the island, but also coordination with Beaufort County so that we can do it together. The Community Development Corporation, just make sure we're touching on that because it's a key element that's built in to this critical path. And then I'm going to talk about some next steps and give you an idea of what I think the schedule is for each one of those steps to complete the work. Everybody good? All right, so on April 5th, we had the benefit of the SCDOT public meeting at the Island Rec Center. We had the benefit of hearing from county staff and county council on the responses to our 26 recommendations. And at the April 5th workshop of council, I led a discussion to go through each one of those 26 recommendations and to get benefit of comments from our council, Beaufort County Council members that were there. We had Senator Davis in attendance, and also we had staff from the county and the town that shared opinions. We later convened at Beaufort County Administrative Office on April 21st, where they had asked SCDOT to come in and provide some additional information related to the modified preferred alternative, the reaction to the town council recommendations, as well as, kind of share some thoughts between participants on the recommendations. So we know we heard some county council members that didn't necessarily agree with the recommendations, some of the recommendations that council had put forward, and there was some alignment on others. So now it's really just to focus on a critical path to get us to the end of the process to make a decision. And so on June 6th, there was a meeting convened to talk about that critical path. There were some memorandums of understanding that were discussed from April through June. One, and we'll talk about it in just a second, but an overall MOU and then some particular MOUs related to the end-to-end analysis, the creation of the Community Development Corporation, and then the adaptive signalization partnership, moving that forward with the county. So this is a lot on one slide, but bear with me. These are the steps that are outlined for each, to get to where I think we've got town consideration, we've got the information needed to make a decision, and we've gone through kind of the exhaustive process here. So, the first and next step is executing an MOU or an agreement with Beaufort County that puts all this stuff in place. We agree, along with the county, to do this work, step 1 through 9, and at the end of that, we will be in a position to make a decision. I mean, that's a simple oversimplification of this whole process, but that's what's outlined here, okay? So number 1 kind of memorializes this. County council, town council have an agreement that if we do these things, we will be ready to make a decision and move forward. There's some steps in here. Number 2, these 3 additional MOUs to be drafted and then brought forward to our council and county council for authorization is agreement on the end-to-end analysis. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in step 3. But agreement on the end-to-end analysis, who's doing it, how are we doing it, scope of work, timing, and so forth. Agreement on the adaptive signalization system. I think we're in agreement. It's just a matter of timing, I think. We have it programmed in our CIP to do all the signals on the island. We'd love to coordinate that with the county to make sure mainland signals are part of the project because it's important to synchronize all of them and then also have the maintenance operations in place so that we don't lose the benefit of putting them in. So That's another MOU or an agreement. And then the third one is agreement on the Community Development Corporation. And I know that's advancing in parallel, but it's certainly related to this project and the benefits that we've talked with Senator Davis about, of creating that and having state funding associated with it. All right, so I'm going to dive in a little bit in the next step, complete the end-to-end analysis. So we've been talking about this now for a few months. You know, we had a 90-day shot clock, and I think it's been 100 days since we had that initial discussion. So I'm ready to begin with filling your expectations and executing the work. So because of the shot clock, we had reached out to our transportation expert at MKSK to get some advice on folks that might be qualified to do it in that time frame. You know, that was 90 to 100, and I think it got shrunk to 90. There's not a lot of engineering firms that could do what we I think are asking them to do in that time frame. But that aside, they did help us identify one, and it was Kimley Horn. We met with a project manager out of Mount Pleasant, sharp guy. Mark and I had a conversation with him, along with Brad Strader with MKSK, and we had a level of confidence that he was asking the right questions, and they could perform some level of analysis. And if that was the direction that the town and county were going collectively, then that was an option. We've since heard some concern from citizens and others. Senator Davis had outlined a very specific independent review with no affiliation to SCDOT. And the unfortunate thing with Kimley Horn is they have a pretty extensive relationship with SCDOT. So we need to talk about, and then Beaufort County, because they have Kimley Horn on call, preferred to, let's go forward with Kimley Horn. We have them on an on-call contract. We can execute that more quickly. And if that's an option, then we can move forward with them together. If that's the direction of council, which I'm not suggesting, then that's an option, okay? We need to decide if we're ready to move forward on our own. The funding, and I'll have Senator Davis confirm it, but I've asked him last week in conversation, the funding that the state had identified to do this project could be made available to us on a reimbursement for this effort if we decide to go and procure an independent consultant to do the work, okay? End-to-end analysis, is it the county, us with the county of Kimley Horn? Is it us independently? And I'll ask for your direction on that in just a minute. We've also asked to finalize the position, Beaufort County position on our recommendations. We had the meeting back in April. We know that there was maybe a little bit of movement on some of those recommendations, closer to where the town was with the recommendations, and there's kind of a hard line. But I think in order to do the evaluation, to understand impact mitigation, funding, we need to make sure that we know exactly where Beaufort County is and have that evaluated. It's very important when we cost out the options to know, is it a 10-foot wide breakdown lane or shoulder, or is it 6 feet wide? And there's already been some movement. So one final position on those recommendations from Beaufort County, and that will be a requirement in the MOU that we would enter with the county on this overall scope, okay, to complete the work. Number 5, we will work with MKSK and their team to do the evaluation of probable costs, engineering probable costs for all the recommendations, so that we can speak intelligently to know, is there cost savings with our recommendation, or is it cost more? And at the end of the day, what's the net gain or net deficit that we have to make up with this, with this project? I will say that MKSK and HDR helped the project look at the traditional cultural property impact. And based on that evaluation, we were able to move SCDOT to not do the U-turns, right? So there's opportunity. We need to have that assessment because it's part of the decision-making process. We need to have a level of comfort through this complete impact mitigation assessment for the corridor. We really need to understand that down to the finest detail that we can, because we're going to get one chance to get it right. And we need to make sure that we're asking for everything we need to as this project moves forward. But that's a critical point, and critical step in this process. Complete the value engineering. There is already a process, and again, some benefit of talking with Jonathan Guy at Kimley Horn. That's part of the NEPA process. They're required to do it. We'll have an opportunity to review it, but really it's where's an opportunity for cost savings, and can we reprogram that funding back into the project? And so everything's not just an ad. As we get toward the end of this process, the coordination of a meeting on the Gateway project, we'll coordinate that with town council. Does that include county council? I don't know, but we'll coordinate with town council through Mark on that meeting, and then we'll go through these key elements: impact mitigation, the design, the funding, the SCDOT position. Where are we as it impacts project budget from what's being projected to the final configuration that would be represented as a result of this process. And we have MKSK, again, working on the cost evaluation, but also on some fly-throughs to really be able to understand the experience through the corridor and make sure that that's represented when we have these discussions at the end. I think that's a critical element. And then at the end, it's town council consideration for consent, and we're talking about the bridge, the corridor, impacts and mitigation. We'll continue through the design. We're trying to get the alignment and the key elements, and then we'll continue through our MOU to be involved in a partnership through all elements of design through the end of the project. That's the critical path. Does it make sense? You have any questions on that? We can open up questions at the end too, but that's what I see as the path forward to get us from where we are today to where we would need to be to make a decision. Now I'm going to go on for one next slide here. Next steps and schedule. So do we want to move forward with Kimley Horn, who has the relationship with DOT? We've got some concern about the optics about independence and being objective. I trust Jonathan Guy. I trust Brad Strader. But I do understand the concern. I have some concerns about optics as well. I think data is data. Methodology and scope of work is going to be methodology and scope of work. But if the direction is to move forward with them, that's an option. We do have an option. It'll take about 6 to 9 months for the town to procure its own engineering consultant. We've already started to draft the RFQ. We could have it on the street in about a week, and it'd be out for 30 days. Procure a contractor. Estimates that we've heard are about 6 to 9 months to complete this end-to-end analysis, and to have some products to evaluate at the end, although we'll be evaluating it all the way through. The schedule I put on that is today. I would love to get from town council, move forward with the county and Kimley Horn, or move forward independently with our own consultant to do the work, knowing that, those are the steps that we need to go through, okay? I'm going to come back to that, okay? The next step is to finalize the MOU, this big MOU that incorporates all of these steps, okay? We think we can have that in no more than 60 days, and take that forward to both councils through the administrator and manager for consideration and agreement, okay? That's the big MOU that says if we agree to do it and we agree to do it this way, we're moving forward in partnership to reach an agreement at the end of this process. We'll move forward with MKSK. I've already signed a job order with them to do the engineering opinion of probable cost, along with the graphics and the fly-throughs to help us with that experience. So that's in place. It'll be done concurrent and parallel with the end-to-end analysis, but I don't want to hold them off too much longer. I've got Brad Strader coming here on August 1st. I've got Brian Kinzelman might be in town today, but we've executed that job order to begin that work. We have to finalize and execute the MOU on the signal synchronization strategy, the adaptive traffic signal. We've met at the staff level. There's pretty well alignment. I think we're ready to roll right away based on our budgeted funds. And it's just a timing issue to get the county online. But in 30 to 60 days, have an MOU to make sure that we're moving forward together on that adaptive traffic signal project. And then establish the Community Development Corporation. We know that there's going to be some discussion here, maybe tonight, and then coming forward about the consideration to establish that corporation. I think that's us, that's the town, working forward on that, but establishing that was another key element of this process. And once that's stood up, then I think we can celebrate that accomplishment. So this is the next steps and schedule, and I'm going to come back to the top and ask respectfully to council to give me some guidance on how to proceed with this end-to-end analysis. Again, there's basically two options on the table. I think option two, based on the fact that we need to have, that there's some work that still needs to be evaluated, and that the optics to make sure that we are meeting the intent of our citizens, that option two to do it on our own might be the best direction. I'm going to bring Senator Davis up. It's great to have Senator Davis as a closer here.
Thanks. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, members of council. Mark, appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys again. I think this process, as outlined by Colin, is excellent in format in terms of establishing a critical path of things that need to be done in order for this council to make a decision on behalf of the people of Hilton Head, and you're to be commended for doing that due diligence. I think that's been exemplary. He's talked about the MKSK recommendations, the 26 recommendations. Glad to hear that that's moving forward in terms of monetizing what those would cost. That will then help me determine whether or not SCDOT can accommodate those changes within the budget. Secondly, in regard to the signalization with the county, also glad to hear that there is discussion at the staff level about meshing the county's proposed study out on the mainland and the town's proposed study on the island in terms of using the same methodologies so that they're consistent with each other. I agree with Colin that it's important that move forward in tandem with these overall due diligence items, because the outcome of those traffic optimizational studies in terms of how you can maximize traffic flows may have some meaningful impact on the decisions you want to make in regard to the 278 corridor. So I think having that data relevant parallel to these other efforts is a good idea. Also, you guys are to be commended for the initiative you've taken with the Stony Community Development Corporation. I mean, you guys took the bull by the horns. You passed a resolution, I believe it was 3 or 4 months ago now. On the strength of that, we were able to secure a $5 million appropriation from the state. I've already spoken with our federal delegation. As soon as that is stood up, and given the things that it stands for, I think there's an excellent opportunity for federal funds coming in to supplement these state dollars we secured for the CDC as well. I'm really excited about that. Similar with the MKSK and the traffic signalization, I think it's important, and I'm glad that you're taking it up today, for it to run concurrent with the 278 corridor discussions, because I think, the whole essence of that CDC is what proactive things can this town do to kind of, reinvigorate or protect that community. And obviously that has a material impact on what you're doing with 278 corridor, because that's one of the things that's in consideration here. I want to talk a little bit about the last of the four things. The four things being the MKSK recommendations, the signalization coordination between the county and the city, and the Stony CDC. The last being the end-to-end simulation. And I suspect that's going to be the focus of a lot of discussion with this council. All I can do is share with you my steps and my thoughts in that regard. The first one is there is an absolute need for an end-to-end simulation. The simulation that has been done to date, and by that I mean projections of what traffic flows will look like given various alternatives that have been proposed. The segment that was subjected to a simulation early on by the SCDOT was not expansive enough. So I think that's the first observation to be made. If you've got the proper scope for the simulation, I think you get better data and a better way to compare options. And so that's one of the things on the table is the scope, beginning at the Moss Creek lights and then extending to the Gumtree and to the Cross Island intersection. The second thing I would say is I would encourage you not to feel constrained by 90-day deadline. I spoke with Secretary Hall about this, I think it was back in April when we first had the joint meeting between the town and the county about the need to do some new end-to-end simulations with the revised scope. And she indicated at that time it was going to take 6 to 9 months and may cost upwards of $800,000. And she expressed no concerns in either of those respects, either in regard to the length of time needed to do the simulation, nor in regard to the cost. So, and I appreciate efficiency, I appreciate the intent to save money, but there's a risk here of being penny wise and pound foolish by telescoping your simulation period into 90 days, which seems to me kind of arbitrary, if we're being told that it's going to take 6 to 9 months, and the Secretary of Transportation is saying she sees that as reasonable and not threatening either the DOT project or the SIB funding. I'm not sure why we're trying to telescope things down into the 90-day window. So that's one observation I'll make. The second is in regard to the consultant that is selected. And obviously, to a material degree, that's a subjective determination as to who's best qualified. I can only offer you with this analogy. I view your role here, I'm an attorney, so I look at things in terms of how do I represent a client and how do I best represent that client. By analogy, you are the attorney for, or you represent the citizens of Hilton Head, and you're trying to put yourself in the best position to make the best possible decision on behalf of your constituents. I don't have anything bad to say. I don't know anything about Kimley Horn. I can say that there is always the danger, in my experience, when you hire a consultant, for there to be confirmation bias. And that if you have an existing relationship with an agency that obviously has a material interest in seeing its project proceed in the way that its engineers designed it, there is going to be a tendency, if you have an extensive existing relationship with that agency, to go ahead and confirm what's been proposed. And if this town truly has as its objective to put itself in the best position to make decisions on behalf of your constituents, it's not simply merely a matter of optics and what people might say. I think it goes to substance. I think it goes to the quality and what you can expect out of the product, and the confidence that in turn instills in the public, which is the material reason why we're doing this critical path. And so I offer all that by way of saying, I respect everything that you've done to date on this. Having MKSK on board, getting the CDC stood up, coordinating the traffic optimization studies. I mean, you guys have been proactive in looking out for the citizens of Hilton Head. I would just encourage you that in regard to this end-to-end simulation, which is necessary, that you take into consideration the possibility of confirmation bias, the need to instill in the public confidence in the process. And then the last thing I'll say in regard to the simulation, separate and distinct from the consultant you choose, and perhaps even more important, is the scope of work and the thing that you want that consultant to do. Okay? It doesn't matter how good your consultant is if the scope of work you're performing isn't going to put you in a position to qualitatively assess various options and then to say, yes, we have looked at all the possible information and we've made the best decisions on behalf of our constituents. And so, in my opinion, that qualitative analysis or that simulation needs to look at the preferred alternative by the DOT, factoring in the traffic optimization that hopefully that data will be available, and other alternatives that were presented to the DOT so that you can compare and contrast the simulation results in regard to each of those alternatives. And so I'll sum up by saying this. I think that Colin set forth an extremely good critical path. The devil is in the details. You guys are going to be wrestling with some of those details tonight. These are my thoughts, and they're my thoughts only. I recognize that at the end of the day, I'm not the principal in this transaction. The principals are the town of Hilton Head and Beaufort County in interaction with the DOT. But anything that I can do, to share my thoughts, I set forth some draft MOUs just simply to get the ball rolling, to look at in terms of what they might look like. But any way that I can be of assistance to your efforts in this regard, let me know. Because I have said at the end of the day, to continue the attorney analogy, you're my client, and so I advocate on your behalf to the DOT. I advocate on your behalf to the public at large. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Bill?
Senator, thank you for your comments. In the event, it's the collective wisdom of this group to get a independent consultant, not Kimberly Horn. Is it a given the county will continue to use Kimberly Horn?
I can't speak for the county's decision-making process, Mr. Harkins. You know, I can only say that a couple of months ago, after we met in that joint meeting, I think it was in April, maybe it was 3 months ago now, but I met shortly thereafter with the county administrator, a couple of members of county council, and I think a member or two of county staff. And at that time, I emphasized the things that I had stated during that joint meeting, that there was an importance to do this independent end-to-end simulation, and that it be important that it be done by a consultant that is truly independent so that you get the best possible information. And there was agreement in that regard with all the Beaufort County representatives that were then in place. You know, and so here we are 2 or 3 months later, and that hasn't been done. I can't speak as to why it hasn't been done. I remain committed in my belief that Hilton Head, the town of Hilton Head, is the one that needs to have a relationship with a consultant, something you're comfortable with. And so I would focus on that. And you decide what you are comfortable with, and then I will help you. I can't tell you what the county is going to do, but I will make the argument to Beaufort County Council that at the end of the day, even though this is a county-sponsored project, okay, the subgroup of my constituents that I'm listening to the most on this are going to be the people who live on Hilton Head. You're the ones that are going to be dealing with this bridge every day of your life, and it's going to be there for 30, 40, 50 years. As Colin said, we've got one chance to get this right. And so it's what you feel comfortable with, irrespective of what I think the county council might do.
Senator, you've been an invaluable ally, and I sincerely appreciate all that you've done to try to keep all of these moving pieces into some coordinated approach. It is vital for us to move forward with the MOU with the county that cements the fact that we are 50-50 partners in moving this project forward. You began that discussion, and that has been very valuable to us, and that is a key ingredient that I think needs to be done first, so that we've got that locked down. With respect to the end-to-end analysis, I am convinced that we need to find our own independent consultant to do this. I do not believe that Kimberly Horn is the only one that's out there. Neither do I believe that SCDOT has had a relationship with all qualified engineers across the country. That's beyond belief. So I believe that we should move forward with an independent examination by a consultant that we choose and coordinate, of course, with the county moving forward. The other pieces of this seem to be falling together. The concept of the Development Corporation, thank you for securing those funds. That's amazing. $5 million. We can do so much with that, and if we get more from the federal government, that's even icing on the cake. That's terrific. And again, that's because of your efforts. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stanford.
Tammy?
Thank you, Senator Davis. Your efforts here tonight very well, excuse me, could have turned the tides and where this may have headed otherwise. So your efforts have not gone unappreciated by many of us here, and more than 8,000, close to 9,000 people who have signed a petition to see this done in this way. That's why this is so important. The independent study must be done, not because we all think suddenly it's a good idea, but because there are close to 9,000 people who have paid attention, perked up their ears, read about what's going on, and have said that this is what they demand that we do. And the issue of time is of the essence that we keep hearing of, clearly it's not. So I hope that we all agree here tonight that we make every effort to take the good advice that we've been given, to listen to our constituents and the residents of this island, and that we do it out of respect for them, but also to preserve and to protect Hilton Head Island. If we don't look carefully at what we're doing, we may be in a position where we are taking our future and making it something that none of us could have ever dreamt it would be when we moved here, whenever that was, when we enjoyed the time that brought us to this island, all of the things that we talked about moments ago and I continue to talk about, and we'll talk about some more. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope that we all listen carefully tonight and agree that a true independent study needs to be undertaken and managed and controlled by Hilton Head Island, for Hilton Head Island. Thank you.
Not at this time.
Sonics?
No.
Alex?
Thank you. Just real quick, Sean, we have any idea, I've got some comments for you too, Senator.
Sure,
So stay close. Thank you, sir. Any idea of the estimated cost for this end-to-end analysis with the correct scope attached? Just roughly.
So I would say somewhere south of 800 that Senator Davis had mentioned. The initial estimate on the Kimley Horn, although I don't think it included necessarily everything that the scope of work I think we need to complete the end-to-end analysis will do, was around 250. So let's say somewhere between 250 and 800.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Senator Davis, as I normally state, we are so thankful for your presence and your support. I'm gonna back up a little bit here. I'm sure that when this project was just a dream, you were solicited for support to secure funding. And now here we are, however many years later, you're still standing here in the fight with us saying, I will secure what you need. So we really appreciate that. And to have someone of your stature here giving us the sound advice that you're giving us, I feel very confident that we should move forward with this end-to-end study that we control, okay? We have more than run out of the shot clock that the county has put us on. So to take some more time to make sure that we get this right, I think is not going to hurt us by any means. So I am in support of the question that Mr. Colon is asking us about option one or option two, that we move forward with the end-to-end study. And at the same time, make sure we get this MOU in place with the county, because for too long, it's been the county moving in one direction and us moving in another. And I think we're getting closer to having some meaningful discussions between the two of us. And until we get something in place to solidify that, we run the risk of it going back off of the tracks. So I support that as well. And again, Senator Davis, thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
I'd like Mark to give his thoughts. I'd like him to give your thoughts.
On the end-to-end?
Yeah, on everything we just talked about, yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, we've been working on this for some time, and my initial thoughts quickly are to Senator Davis. Thank you, echo everything I'm hearing. Senator Davis and I talked while we were all in Charleston, just kind of a project update as we're getting ready for tonight. So I appreciate the confidence he provides to me in us thinking through this scenario. And of course, the same to Sean for getting his arms around this project. It was about a year and a half ago, I arrived here and asked about this small little project. And since then, I think we've come a long way. Your 26 recommendations, we've held firm on. I think the good part is we're trying to determine a probable cost to them, right? There's some things of those 26 recommendations within the project scope, some things that are out. I've heard from Gray, I've heard from a lot of people, this independent analysis, and I'm all for it. At the end of the day, regardless of whether DOT accepts it or Beaufort County accepts it, with all due respect to the county, who is the project lead and the project manager on paper to DOT, this end-to-end analysis that we obtain will provide us data for years, right? It's not just this one project we're looking at. When we talk about the signalized system that we're putting in place, it's great if we sign an MOU with the county, but we're off to the races already in this year's current CIP. We're looking for grant dollars, I think aligning with the county in that MOU. But all this data will drive that signal data assessment and help us calibrate our future as well. So, you know, at the end of the day, we're a lot closer. Yeah, I'll say that. Hats off to Sean and a good team, and I think we just need to jump in the pool and keep swimming. Here's my thoughts.
Yeah, that, I come to the conclusion that our community is split because of a perception of lack of data. And in order for us to move forward, I think the independent study makes sense, and we should move forward with the independent study. But there's a part of me that continually asks the question, will we ever satisfy citizens who do not agree with the basic concept of expanding the bridge? And my priority at this time is to move forward, get the answers, and you're providing us a way to do that. But I would say to the mayor and to Mark, we're having a discussion and we're begging a question, not a part of the agenda. Is there going to be a vote on this, or are we just talking in consensus?
Just talking in consensus, and put back on next agenda.
I see.
Having that, I'd like some comment from the audience that's here on their feelings, so we get their. Would you have a seat, Tom?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Colin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've got a comment. I'd like to comment.
Only on this subject.
I'm sorry?
Only on this subject.
That's exactly correct. I know that. I know the rules, and,
I'm just reminding everybody.
well, I'm sorry, I know the rules.
If it's about you, it's fine.
Yeah, I know the rules. Start the clock over, please, if you don't mind. I need that 3 minutes. Please start it over. Start the clock over, whoever's got it, please.
We owe you the seconds, go ahead.
Okay, just let me
We owe you
finish
the
at the
seconds,
end.
go ahead.
My name is Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. I've lived here for 47 years. Like many, we chose Hilton Head for the clean environment and the Fraser vision of low-density, high-end retirement and tourism destination, not the Myrtle Beach and Charleston big city life. Yet nonstop development, overdevelopment, traffic never ends. Selfishness and greed always finds an excuse to justify profit over people and the environment. And what we don't need is more traffic on a single road, one bridge, all the way to I-95. This new $300 million bridge will mimic what a stent does for your heart, yet will do nothing but increase traffic island-wide, along with more runoff pollution that's already choking our creeks, our rivers, our estuaries, and polluting our oysters in just 30 years that took millions of years to create. The powers that be never had the horse sense to develop a proper Hilton Head master land plan that would have stopped this, including Bluffton, Beaufort, and Hardyville. This would have made living here even more exclusive. Islands simply can't open the floodgates to all without a controlled and enforced master land plan. I repeat, we are headed for 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, and we're already at 6 pounds, in my opinion. I blame the kick the can down the road elected officials who haven't a clue on how to balance responsible growth with maintaining the natural environment that drew them here. And now they have phobed off their responsibility to remediate the damage on the folks at South Carolina DOT and blame others. The traffic and overdevelopment has already caused some longtime residents, businesses, and tourists to leave. We all keep electing part-time mayors who are builders, developers, real estate agents, lawyers, and incompetent big spender retired executives who have mastered revolving door leadership positions that stroke their egos while doing as much harm as possible to what was once a majestic landscape. These same elected officials are aided and abetted by unscrupulous, dishonest lawyers who rather line their pockets by overcharging tax-paid legal fees. Google Hilton hit overcharged legal fees. And these attorneys have the same horses in the development races as the elected officials, creating huge conflicts with their real estate and development clients. These unethical lawyers include Finger, Coltrane, Alford, and serial ethics violator Josh Gruber, who also have dishonest, compromised, we also have dishonest, compromised town managers and CPAs who avoid forensic audits that would confirm their illegal tax use that we've identified. This is all legalized highway robbery. Now with the mass exodus of many people from big cities to our area, it will only, please cut that bell off. Now with the mass exodus of many from big cities to our area, it will only get worse, and assured that we will have 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag if the master land plan, please turn that bell off. If the master land plan is not forced to stop traffic and the building and development insanity.
Is there anyone else to speak on this?
It's a shame where we've ended up. There's no fix, unfortunately. We can only stop it from getting worse.
Anyone else would like to speak on this subject? Yes, sir, in the corner there? Yes, please.
Good afternoon, members of Town Council and Town Manager Mark Orlando. Watch me do my Nancy Pelosi imitation, because I had 3 questions for you folks and 1 suggestion. Still have the suggestion, and I'm going to do that because now I'll have plenty of time for it. But what I've heard here today from many of you, it's been an answer to prayer, and I just feel so encouraged about the town keeping the authority of this all-important project and what it has as the implications for, decades and generations to come for our entrance to our beautiful island. And it sounds like you guys are all getting on board of keeping it a beautiful entrance. And for that, I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. So I'm just going to go right to my suggestion. My 1 suggestion would be, why don't you, and you're kind of doing this, I think, but anyway, in coordination with Beaufort County and SCDOT, implement a state-of-the-art adaptive traffic signal system from Buckwalter Parkway to Coligny Circle. Then allow it to work for several months and collect data that could be invaluable to the independent traffic study. What if the adaptive traffic signal system alone raised peak traffic performance from an F to a C, where the SCDOT preferred alternative only raises it from an F to a D? What then? Just replace the 1 bridge and be done with it? We won't know if we don't implement the adaptive traffic light system ASAP. So that was just a little bit of an additional thing to, it looks like the pathway that you're already taking. Again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you guys. Thanks.
Anybody else would like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Town Manager, council members. I have just come up in this meeting with a new battle cry for the town of Hilton Head. We are the town of Hilton Head, and we are proud of being here. And I want to thank you for putting up with us, with all our comments. David Ames has allowed me to discuss things, and Mark as well, and I'm very grateful for that. But I think we are the big dog, and I think that the county of Beaufort is important, but it's the tail that's wagging the dog, and I think we are turning that around. It's our projects, it's our connection to the mainland, it's our future. So, but I have a couple of comments. I think that the way we approached it is, in the early days, was to suggest alternatives, then to inform stakeholders, and then implement, and then install a traffic system and see where it goes wrong. And I think we really need to turn that around. I think the sooner we can get a traffic system installed, and I'm glad that all the efforts are being made, the sooner we'll know where the bottlenecks are, the sooner we can actually intelligently look at what needs to be done. Whether we need 6, 8 lanes, 10 lanes, we have then a foundation on which we can build. And so everybody wants to see a good entrance into Hilton Head. New technology, new methods. We are quite positive about what it can bring to the island. But right now we don't know. And so the sooner that we can get the data from a traffic system that's installed 24/7, 365 days a year, you can change it around to allow other inroads to come into that mainstream. It's all fantastic technology that's available. So I would say that going that way, we will be looked at as really a leading entity for barrier islands and also from other communities that deal with the same problem. So thank you, and let's hope we can get this in place soon. Thank you.
Any more comments? Yes, Mr. Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, before I start within my time, I'm going to answer Mr. Ames's question, will we ever have enough data? When you go to the doctor and you get bad news, you sort of bear it if it's come from a Mayo Clinic doctor and he's got or she's got MRIs and x-rays. Your first part of your comment was correct. The community is split because there's a profound lack of data. We're going to spend $300 or $400 million, split the community. It's going to be good news and bad news no matter what. We need the data. I'm compiling a report card on the 278 project, and its dimensions include analytic approach, transparency, timeliness, consultant experience and independence, county influence, and response to citizen inputs. The initial grades, the preliminary report card, are not good, but you folks here, you 7, can change that. Senator Davis has developed a plan on how to rapidly accomplish it. He's even developed a statement of work. Why aren't we using that? Why has it been 2 or 3 months now that this has been percolating and we don't have a search for an independent consultant and a preliminary contract with them? Why are we using a pre-chosen consultant whose background shows no depth of experience in the types of analyses required? I spent about an hour on the KH website, and I can't find anything they've done that's related to what we're doing. They build things. They do great construction projects, but I haven't seen any complex network analysis in any of their examples. Same thing with MKSK. MKSK has done a tremendous job. I really like the work they've done, but they're beautifying a project whose overall traffic flow is unknown. Why are we focusing mainly on the MKSK 26 and not equally on finding a provable solution to our overall congestion problem from end to end, not just the SCODT small part? Why are we letting Beaufort County run the show again? They show few signs of detailed knowledge or interest, and there's a well-documented body of evidence of them hiding data and corrupting a fair process. And I've got written examples of that if you ever want to see it, from Freedom of Information Act probes and leaked data. They just want to push a brute force plan, whether it's correct, best for our town, or displaces a better plan. I hope you've also noticed the recent voter approval rating of the county council person who pushed their inadequate and unproven plan. Taxpayers really want a Mayo Clinic type study to find solutions to our problem. The path has been laid out, it's been paid for, time's allotted, and even a statement of work's been developed. Why are we moving so slowly? Since I'm running out of time, my last words, please do not provide town consent prior to seeing the independent consultant's report. Please do not provide town consent before seeing that report. That's the only leverage we have. Thank you.
Any other questions out here, comments? No? Do you have a question, Alex?
Yeah, just a comment, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you stating out loud that the decision on the end-to-end analysis will be on our next town council's agenda. we've got a room full tonight. We've got about 9,000 folks that have signed a petition. Full-time residency is close to 40,000, so there are about 30 some odd thousand people missing today and from the petition. I just encourage us to continue to be transparent. I think the critical path that our town manager has laid out before us is a good one that we obviously support, and I think the community needs to know that. So we need to message that as loud and as clear as we can with our updates, with our news releases, on our town's website as far as this critical project is concerned, just to make sure that we are instilling confidence in the community that we are doing the best that we can to get this right, and that misinformation doesn't have the opportunity to creep in. So I just like to suggest that to us moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Orlando, I'd like this on the agenda for the next council meeting, so we can discuss it then. Okay, sir?
Yes, sir, and great job.
And we'll move forward with drafting documents and potentially putting out the request for consultants. We don't have to make a selection until your authorization. But
I think the time will be well spent. I think you have the sense of where we're going here. The next steps, I think including the independent approach, makes a lot of sense. We're not voting on it, but I think the public should know where we are.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, general reports from members of council. Ms. Tammy.
Mr. Mayor, I don't want to take up much time because we've been here for a while talking about some important issues, but something that I had on my mind is kind of part of this discussion. We hear an awful lot about a lot of bad news in the world today, and a lot of controversial things. And I've spoken before about how I love to take the opportunity to look through a child's eyes. And so every time my grandchildren, I have 7 grandchildren, are here, I get the opportunity to go out and see our island without all of the adult information in my brain. And I want to say that Hilton Head is an amazing place. And so while we started coming here back in 1983 with little children, we're doing it all again with these little guys. A lot has changed, and some things still remain the same. It's still the best place to have children and families and go out and explore and to be amazed about the adventures and the creativity that this island allows small children to grow and to experience. And we had an opportunity with them to, our little Aussie, who's 3, had an opportunity to go hear a terrific new band over at Celebration Park. I believe they're doing this every Thursday night or so, called the Tower of Funk. And she brought her guitar, and it was a wonderful evening after having spent the afternoon with her at the museum in Celebration Park, and off watching dolphins and pirate ships and Shannon Tanner, and fabulous time at the Jazz Corner, listening to Pretty Darn and having some amazing food. This island is the best. It's the best place for families. And when you slow down and you take a look at what we have, you realize why it's so important to all of us to protect it, to preserve what we have, and where we have some failings, where we're going to look at things really closely through an independent study and other mechanisms in terms of how much we can increase or whether we're at a maintenance level. It's because we want to protect this island for those who come next. And I thank you all for helping us do that. But take a moment if you can, sit back, clear your mind of all of what's going on in the world, and take a fresh look at Hilton Head. It's amazing out there. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Report on low country area transportation system.
We had no report, meeting this month, Mr.
Low
Mayor.
Country Council of Governments. Low Country Regional Board. Mr. Lennox.
Yes, Soloco met June 28th, Tuesday morning, and the sole agenda item was the discussion among the town managers and Eric Greenway from Beaufort County Council of the proposed Regional Housing Trust Fund. There has been further discussions between Town Manager Orlando and Eric Greenway regarding those benefits anticipated to taxpayers on Hilton Head Island, which most of you are, in an effort to justify the expense or the investment in a regional housing trust fund. We are waiting to receive the proposal from Beaufort County, which identifies those benefits. Beaufort County is ready to go to a memo of understanding, but we won't move until we have clearly defined benefits. I expect that to occur within the next 30 days.
Thank you, sir. Beaufort Area Airport Board.
No report?
Okay, community services.
No report today, sir.
Water Bullet Plan.
Well, there's no meeting in July, but there is the meeting that the deputy town manager referred to on August 4th. It's an extensive agenda with a number of items that the public probably would be interested in knowing about.
Okay, report of the F&A committee.
Thank you, John. The F&A committee met this morning at 10 o'clock, and we are advancing a resolution on the 5-year consolidated CDBG program. We're also advancing 2 recommendations to town council pertaining to impact fees from Beaufort County, specifically the transportation impact fee and the library impact fee. Expect to see those within the next 20 or 30 days.
Okay, with that, I'd like to do a proclamation if Steve Sofer, Frank Stoll, and Alan Perry would join them. Come on, you've been with them for a long, long time.
Take your time.
No.
Come on, coach, let's go.
Okay. Alan, the back of the
Yep.
I know he's up front. He's been here 2 days in a row. Yeah. Thank you for coming again. Sure. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of the communities throughout our country, including Hilton Head, South Carolina. And whereas our parks and recreation programs are vitally important to establish and the maintenance of a quality of life, ensure the health of all our citizens, and contribute to the economic and environmental well-being of our community and region. Whereas parks and recreation programs build healthier, active community that aid in the prevention of chronic diseases, provide recreation services for those that are mentally or physically disabled, and improve the mental and environmental health of our citizens. Whereas parks and recreation programs increase the community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expand the local tax base, increase tourism, and attraction and the retention of businesses and crime reduction. And whereas parks, the natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of air we breathe, provide vegetation buffers to development, and produce habitat for the wildlife. And there's only 12 whereases in this, okay? So whereas parks and natural recreation areas ensure that the beauty of our community and provide a place for the children and adults to connect with nature. And whereas the House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, therefore I, John J. McCann, Mayor of the Town of Hilton Head, hereby proclaim July as Park and Recreation Month in recognition that divides from the park and recreation areas. Thank you and congratulations. Great job.
I'm on the stage once, so hang there. Let's get it.
Stay right there, John.
Okay.
Big team photo.
Where'd the kid go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, appearance by citizens. Remind everybody their name, address, date of birth, social security numbers. Krista, who's first?
First, sir, we have Mr. Cosimo Urado. Mr. Urado?
Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Cosimo Urado. I've lived on the island for over 48 years, over 40 years at 13 Park Road in North Forest Beach. Park Road begins on Lagoon Road in between Ibis and Heron and ends at Egret. I have two concerns I'd like to address. The location of two 30-mile-per-hour signs. One is approximately 20 feet from the front of Roller's Liquor Store as you come onto Lagoon Road from the new Pope Avenue and Lagoon Road light. Another 30-mile-per-hour sign starts on North Forest Beach Drive as you come off the Coligny Circle driving north. These two locations have more automobile, bicycle, commercial truck, and pedestrian traffic than Harbortown does. These areas are much too busy for 30-mile-per-hour signs. They should be changed, in my belief, to maybe 15 miles per hour, at least until Bittern Street. Number two, the amount of pedestrian and bicycle traffic on Lagoon Road has increased every year for the past 10 to 20 years remarkably. And now, with the amazing success of Coligny Beach public access improvements and the incredible Celebration Park completion, I beg you to keep pushing for a bicycle/pedestrian pathway along Lagoon Road. I know this has been addressed before, but as a concerned resident, I believe it's important to continue to raise awareness for the safety of residents and visitors alike. Any questions?
Thank you. Mark, could you take a look at this, please? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
William O'Day. Mr. O'Day?
Hi, my name is Bill O'Day. I live at 1 Belton Court in Indigo Run. And the subject is the pickleball courts that are being proposed for Sunningdale along to Club Court. I've spoken with Nicole Dixon, and I've spoken with Todd McNeil about the amount of noise that pickleball courts cause. The first page, number one, is just identification of the project that's been submitted. That occurred in December. I got involved in March. I've been to the board of directors at Indigo Run. I've been to the ARB at Indigo Run. I've been to the town here to speak to people in charge. If you look at this map, you'll see the closest house to the proposed site for the pickleball courts is 338 feet. Other homes vary up to 480 feet. We proposed to move those over to Marshland Road, but that was not accepted by the club court. We've had discussions with them. They believe they can meet the noise ordinance, and we won't know until the courts are built. That is the critical item here. If we look at the page 3, this is the ordinance for Hilton Head for noise. Pickleball sound is between 1,000 and 2,000 hertz. And because it's an impulsive sound, you need to reduce that 54 dB by 5 dB to set the maximum amount that's allowed for noise on the adjoining property. There's another article here that shows that 12 dB should be the adjustment because of that. That's according to the American National Standards Institute. I measured average 37 decibels in my backyard yesterday. Then I put it on a chart. There are 2 pages here just identifying a study done for a lawsuit in Massachusetts about pickleball courts that were 350 feet away from a spot where they measured a 53 decibel line across here, and here is the 37 average. So we've got a difference of 15 decibels. 10 decibels is a sound energy 10 times the lower amount. This is a 15 decibel change. What will this do to our peace of mind and our home values? The bottom line is our sound volume, and then you can see that every 2 to 3 seconds we will have an impulse of impulsive sound. And the town will be deciding whether to approve this project or not, so I just wanted you to have this side of the information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Kristen?
Yes, sir. Linda Harrington. Ms. Harrington, please.
Hello to all of you. I would like to read this into the record. It's addressed to all of you. I'm here to state, in my humble opinion, we need a police department or a sheriff who is responsive and has enough staff to cover our little slice of paradise. There have been many incidents in the past couple of years that were handled far from satisfactorily or not at all. I was one of those incidents. To put a senior citizen through what I went through is unconscionable. I was rear-ended by a drunk driver. The other driver stayed after he hit me and showed me all of his alcohol bottles that he had imbibed. He waited 10 minutes. No one showed up. I was on the phone with 911 the entire time, and all the woman kept saying was, "Look at me, don't look at him." It's kind of funny to say when you're on the phone, and very cold comfort. The entire time that I was there, the other driver was trying to get at me. He banged on my car windows, which the 911 operator heard. He stood in front of my car so I couldn't leave. He tried all the passenger drawers and the hatch. No one should have to be alone on a dark street waiting as long as I did. The timing was such that as soon as the major arrived, the driver had just sped off approximately 30 to 60 seconds prior to her. It took a full 25 minutes before an actual deputy arrived. And when I asked the major, why are we waiting and couldn't she start the paperwork? Do you know what she said to me? She wasn't qualified to take an accident report. Now, if you get to the position of major and you can't fill out an accident report, what does that say? You can't be serious. The story gets worse. Trust me, much worse. And I'd be happy to convey it to any one of you who would like to know and might be interested. As I've spoken with more and more people on this subject, I'm finding there's a lot more happening here than any of us realized. I spoke to a woman in Sea Pines. She had to lock herself in her master bathroom for over 15 minutes waiting for a deputy to arrive. Again, cold comfort. She was petrified, she waited on the line, and when they arrived, they did nothing more than shoo this drunk home. It's unacceptable. A neighborhood association in the Spanish Wells area asked for a meeting with the sheriff because of the shootings and the gunshots constantly in that area. As a resident of Indigo Run, I can verify they're shooting guns down there. The sheriff told the owners in no uncertain terms he didn't have enough staff to put, but by all means, call every time you hear a shot. Can I not finish? Or?
Keep on going, keep on going.
Okay. The tourist that was shot in our nice, beautiful new Celebration Park might just be the beginning of a trend. How many guns have been stolen in the past 3 years out of automobiles here? I have to say, I don't think those guns are leaving the area so fast. I think they constitute an ongoing threat, and I hope we aren't too late in looking into this issue. I feel as if we're paying additional fees for policing over and above the amount we pay in real estate tax from a surcharge. The police should have a bigger presence on this island. Sadly, they don't. The minimal uptick in police presence this spring was, in my opinion, due to the sheriff having a challenger in the primary. The fact that it's an election year may account for the slightly more visible deputies we see. And I've been told the sheriff has a lot of swagger. Well, all I can say is you can have all the swagger in the world, but it doesn't count for a thing if your residents don't feel safe and protected. In conclusion, thanks to COVID, we're now seeing more tourism than we've ever seen before. With the addition of approximately 25,000 additional tourists a week during this season, clearly indicates the need for more police services. Our new town manager comes from Bluffton. They have a police department. He should be able to come up with a quick approximation of cost without that much trouble if you've done it in Bluffton. This must be addressed one way or another, and I thank you for listening.
Excuse me, could you give your name and phone number?
Linda Harrington, she has it.
You got a phone number?
Yes, sir, I have everything on
Thank you.
file.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir, Susan Smith.
My name is Suzanne Smith, and I live in Port Royal Plantation on Coggins Point Road. Mayor, Town Council members, and Town Manager, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. This is not in what I originally wrote, but listening to Ms. Becker, wanting to protect our island and our four-legged creatures, our animals, our fish, etc. We also need to protect the residents. Crime has been getting worse in our little piece of paradise, and if we don't keep it in check, it will no longer be the paradise that the residents have been enjoying, and some people already feel like their paradise has been gone. It will also negatively impact our tourist industry. Our most recent shooting of a tourist in Celebration Park was kept off the front page of the newspaper, obviously an attraction we don't want to publicize. As you know, this isn't our only shooting. We have robberies, drug issues, vandalism, and more. Most people now know we have a limited police presence on the island. So speed limits are rarely adhered to, and running red lights has become a sport. When I go through a light as it's turning, I look behind me just to count how many people come behind me and go through the red light. I've counted 5 and 6 people. I say to my husband, this is unbelievable. We just made it through the light, and all these people have gone through behind me. Many of our vacationers are lovely, but too many have no respect for the island or its residents, with little police presence to keep them in line. I'm not disparaging the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. They have an entire county to cover, and we can't be their #1 priority. We're the only municipality in Beaufort County without their own police force, and none of the others come close to the number of tourists that we receive every year. As you know, for some time, I have been requesting a cost analysis to have our own police department. Although, Mayor McCann, you told me at one point you would do that, you have since told me it's too soon. Too soon for what? You have sued Beaufort County over the additional fees of our taxes for the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, but you don't know what it would cost for our own force. Please do the cost analysis and give the residents the opportunity to make a choice as to who we would like to have protect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Krista?
We have Mr. Advocate, Diedrich Advocate. You're all set. Mr. Bear, you all set? Okay, and Mr. Smith, great. Mr. Hoagland, Skip Hoagland, please.
Skip Hoagland, South Carolina Watchdog.com. I have questions anyone can understand regardless if you're honest, educated, incompetent, crooked, or corrupt. Why, after being educated on this tax issue, does council continue voting to approve the illegal criminal misuse of millions of tax funds to the chamber and nonprofits? Why did you vote in favor of illegal chamber tax funding without any valid contract, oversight, accounting, and proven performance metrics? This violates South Carolina constitutional laws, procurement laws, tax laws, Nonprofit Corporation Act laws, IRS 501-C6, nonprofit tax codes, and IRS UBIT, and the DMO Chamber unfair trade, business, and competitive practices by selling illegal advertising against local media, including newspapers and magazines. This council is also allowing the chamber to take over $1 million of our tax funds to Canada to generate a $500,000 salary for Bill Miles, a $2 million house in Indigo Run, from his money laundering. This council has allowed Gruber and Orlando to use tax funds illegally to pay for their own chamber memberships as well as memberships for the elected officials. It's a quid pro quo. Who are tax members if it's paid with tax monies? The town is violating my FOIA to see chamber accounting. It's a Supreme Court violation. Chamber allows a fraud by the chamber of Bill Miles to escape showing his illegal use of tax funds as secret sauce, facilitated by the following lawyers and public officials. Lawyers Crow, Tigas, Gruber, Alford, Nestor, and Finger. Officials Orlando, Lennox, Harkins, Stanford, Ames, and McCann, and Carlton Dallas, the secret Greater Island Council, and others I'm missing. Lawyer Stanford, who hired you to run the secret Greater Island Council? And who hired Carlton Dallas to replace you? And why did you and Gruber hire Dallas to address the Finance Committee in a scheme to avoid chamber tax accounting? Why does council keep approving tax funds to the illegal chamber when tourism promotion is done for free by technology, local search, and social media? Certainly, you all understand this. If you don't understand technology, you're not qualified for public service. Honest public service is appreciated, but not dishonest service. So now I go around the room and ask for your answer. Will you fix this tax scam and fraud to all taxpayers? Just answer yes or no or say nothing and admit guilt. How about it? Lawyer? Nope. Mr. Stanford? Ms. Becker? Mr. Harkins? Mr. McCann? Mr. Orlando? Mr. Brown? Mr. Lennox? No answer, correct? That's what I figured. Thank you very much.
Lastly, we have Peter Christian, sir.
Held to 3 minutes, Peter, okay?
We'll try. Put a little bit of oxygen back in the room. Town Manager Orlando and members of the Town Council, first of all, thank you. I know that Dr. Gene Furr has been in touch with your staff about starting another oyster collection place, and you've been working very kindly with her. And Jean does a wonderful job with volunteers collecting oysters over at Honeyhorn right now, and has done a project over at Harbortown, and we have other projects lined up, mainly with volunteers, and really appreciate you spearheading that and working on that. Councilmember Sanford and Bill, recycling. Part of the problem with recycling is contamination. And when they pick the products up, if they're too badly contaminated, they won't take them. And it varies between 5% and 20% contamination. As we've indicated to you before, When you recycle and you bring it to the landfill, you pay. If you dump it as trash, they pick up the fee automatically. It needs to be reversed. And Alex, your comment about recycling at our convenience center, which is by far the most used convenience center on the island, they are still checking the code at the entrance. And I know that they say that they're not, but they are. And I was there on Saturday, and I was checked right at the gate. And that needs to change, because we need to have everybody the ability to recycle, and we need to educate people. And education is a key to this entire process. Last, in the last minute, each town and municipality has their own corporate culture and their own priorities. And ours, I believe, is staying as close to our constituents as possible. Where else can you come up to complain about a sign on your street about the speed limit, where your police force should be going, and items that seem trivial to many others, but you folks diligently listen to all the good, all the bad, process it, and then you use your common sense to sort it out and come to a logical conclusion. And I thank you for that service and sitting here and listening to myself and all the others who come before me. Congratulations. Keep it up. Don't stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
That it, Krista?
Yes, sir, that concludes appearance by
Okay,
citizens.
new business, first reading of proposed ordinance 20-22-08, amending sections 12.2-110 and 12.1-510 of the municipal code of the town of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, and regarding its e-bike regulations.
Second.
Discussion about members of the council. Discussion about members of the community on e-bikes. Yes, Patsy? What's your last name? I should have called you Mrs. Bryson, I'm sorry.
All right. You can call me Patsy. Just say you call me for dinner, right? Patsy Bryson, 9 Misty Morning Drive, Hilton Head Island. I'm speaking solely for myself today. As you know, I've announced that I'm going to run for town council this fall. So I'm just speaking with regard to myself and e-bikes. And first of all, I want to thank you for moving this forward. As you know, I've long been concerned about safety and health of everyone on this island. And dealing with this issue is a very tough issue. There's a lot of folks concerned about it, and trying to tackle it has been very difficult under the constraints that you have to operate under. So I want to thank the town manager especially for working with the staff. I've worked with Missy Lewick with the BZA. She's wonderful. She has experience and expertise in this area, and her work on behalf of safety and etiquette is invaluable. And I look forward to continuing to work on safety and health issues on that. I appreciate that you're going to take this step, and I know we have other tasks to look at with regard to safety on our pathways, and I look forward to working with you on that. In my work with the Bike Walk Board of Directors, I serve on the CIP committee, and thanks again to the town manager for the wonderful budget for the CIP projects to improve the safety of our pathways here. And I appreciate all the diligence that all the town council members have made on this tough issue. I remember Councilmember Lennox listening with attention when I sent information about the photos and some of the distances on the pathways. And I know we're going to work on that. And I know we're going to work on safety on the beaches, with biking on the beaches. So I appreciate all of those efforts, and I'm here to continue to work with you on those efforts. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Patsy. Is there anybody else here to speak on e-bikes? Okay, bring it back, members of the council. Discussion on the council. Mr. Glenn?
No, sir.
No. Stammy?
So this is just not one that I think is ready for me to be able to support, and so I'll be voting no.
Okay. Bill?
We've had this discussion.
Bill set? Dave, all set? Mr. Lennox, all set? Okay. Krista, please call the vote.
Mr. Brown?
Support.
Mr. Ames,
Yes.
Mr. Harkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Becker,
No.
Mr. Lennox,
Yes.
Mr. Stanford,
Yes.
Mayor McCann.
Yes,
Motion carries, sir.
thank you. Mr. Orlando, do we need to go into executive session?
And then one more.
More.
Got a resolution.
Jesus, look at it. Okay, consideration and resolution of Town Hall authorizing the execution and delivery of a drainage system maintenance agreement.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions by a member of the council? Any question by a member of the public? Bringing it back to council. Any questions? The vote, Krista?
Mr. Brown,
Support.
Mr. Harkins,
Yes.
Mr. Ames,
Yes.
Mrs. Becker,
Yes.
Mr. Lennox,
Yes.
Mr. Stanford, Mayor McCann.
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Mr. Orlando, do we need an executive session?
Yes, sir. Several items as shown on the agenda specifically pertaining to SC Freedom of Information Act 30-470A1 as well as 70A2 listed as item A through E on our executive session on our agenda.
Move we go into executive session for the reasons set forth by the town manager.
Second?
All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Crystal, go into executive session. back from executive session. Thank you all for staying.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion. I move to approve a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of an agreement resolving pending eminent domain proceeding between the town of Hilton Head Island and capital B, capital R, capital E, rental resolution Circle Center owner LLC.
Second.
Any discussion by members of the council? Any discussion by members of the public? Christian, take the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Support.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mrs. Becker? Yes. Mr. Lennox?
Yes.
Mr. Stanford?
Yes.
Mayor McCann?
Yes.
Motion carries, sir.
Is that all we have to discuss, Mr. Hawkins?
Yes. I move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor, raise the right hand. Thank you.